Welcome to Ditch Those Reading Logs and Engage Your Readers with Spaces. I cannot wait for this one. I am a former ELA teacher, former librarian, so I'm all about this session. Okay, so you may be like, well, who are you, crazy lady? I am Dr. Desiree Alexander, and I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. These are all of the different ways that you can contact me. If you're watching the video on YouTube, no, you don't get the certificate, but you do get the knowledge. And right underneath the video will be the link to the resources. So you do get everything that everybody else gets. If you go to that link of resources, this has been a summer series with 4 different presentations by the wonderful Dean and the wonderful Melody. So if you go to that website, you'll see the previous videos, the resources from all the videos. It's awesome. So definitely use that resource to get all of the link to get all of the resources. Then what do we have coming up? Well, we are going to take a little hiatus until August 20th. I know it seems like 50 years from now, but it's not. But on Saturday, August 20th, we're going to come back with Rochelle to talk about immersing students in learning using AR, VR, XR. If you ever wonder, like, how do you put your phone over a book and the character comes out of the book? That's what we're going to be talking about, things like that. So you want to come back and kind of find out about kind of taking your technology skills a little bit further, right? And then we have creating follow-ups with FormU, August 27th. Oh, I need Catherine to come teach me this now because I actually need to do FormU now. So what FormU is it's going to let you automate. So when you go to, like, you know how when you fill out the form, you get a certificate automatically from me? That's using AutoPrac. But with FormU, you can automate without using an attachment. So you don't have to like use a Google slide or you know, an attachment. I just want to send an automatic email. So I cannot wait. And this is so important for teachers. So there we go. And then we have, oh, what's up? Melody's coming back, y'all. But this time she's going to be talking about parents using spaces. And that is so important because, you know, we don't have enough time, but we still want to engage our parents. So how do we start this year off right, engaging our parents using spaces? And then we have AI in education. So really talking about that in education. I'll be talking about increasing your EdTech footprint and influence with the Everyone Academy from Morocco. If you go to this link, it's going to look like you have to pay $2, but you don't. That's only for the certificate. Just read the screen. It's on the screen. And then we have Teach Tech Trek is the theme, but we have TCCA is one of my absolute favorite conferences in Aldine, in Houston, Texas. Just come. If you can come. It really is amazing. It really is fun. And it's free. What? All right. And then we have special education and beyond, what I think every single educator, no matter what hat you wear, needs to be at this session on October 29th. And then we have, oh, who is this pretty lady? Organizing your professional projects on Saturday, November 5th. I am going to put an asterisk on that because I may have to change the dates. I'm just warning you now. I won't know till next week, but that date may have to be in 2023. So, or in December, I don't know. But I'm just kind of warning you, you go ahead and register, but then you may get an email saying I have to change the date. So I'm just letting you know. But November 5th, and it's just talking about how do you organize all this stuff that we have to do, like these projects and presenting. And, you know, a lot of people are trying to start side businesses. And so let's talk about organizing those professional projects. And then 3 tools with endless possibilities. I can't wait for that one as well. And then, of course, we always have our self-paced online courses for Google certifications, level 1 and level 2, and for the SLLA test prep for educational leadership test that half of the nation takes. Woo! All right, we're starting to promote. We already have one. We already have one scheduled for 2023. I cannot wait. And he's going to be talking about teaching students of single parents. I'm like, okay, love these different topics. So, and that's going to be coming out soon. But there you go. So definitely let us know if you want to present or if you want to see a certain topic. So you see it has a different bit.ly there. You can still find it at edalex.net/events. All right, everybody. We're going to come to, get to what you came here for. So we're going to talk about how do we ditch those reading logs? How do we use spaces? I am all about it. So I'm going to be quiet and let's start our webinar.
Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. My name is Melody McAllister, and I love that you're here. You could be watching Shark Week, but you are here with me today, and that I appreciate that so much. And I would love for you to actually take this bit.ly.engage readers with spaces. Of course, you can, I know that Dr. Desiree is great with all of the resources, and I put everything in here. But if you actually take this bit.ly, everything is hyperlinked, and so it's a resource in itself. Thank you so much for being here. I am Melody McAllister, and I would love if you followed me on Twitter. I will definitely follow you back. I do lots of things just like y'all do. One of the things I am most proud about is, writing this book, the I'm Sorry story. I'm actually writing the second one as well. And I have another story called Booger Eater, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. But I love writing, and I love infusing my stories with SEL because I am an educator. And I wanted to say, if you take a screenshot, tweet me out, tag me this morning, I'm going to choose one person to send an autographed book to and do an author reading with your class if that interests you. So if there's something cool that I say that you really resonates with you and you think it'll resonate with other people and you share it on Twitter, tag me, and you may be getting a free book from me and an author reading if that sounds good to you. All right. Okay. And I do also, if you, I do have a Spanish version of that as well. So wanted to put that there. Today, we're going to talk about like the case for daily reading. And I know that you know that there's a reason that we should read daily. That's why you're here. And it's so cool. You probably are readers, and I'm probably going to be preaching a lot to the choir today. So that's why I want to make sure that this is very conversational. And I know that you probably know even more than me about a lot of stuff. And so I'll love your input. I offer one really big idea. It's going to be a book club, but I also include resources at the end of my slide. Like maybe you don't like this book club idea. I also have some ways to show you how to get away from those reading logs. And of course, it mostly has to do with modeling, and we'll get into the other stuff wonderfully. So right now, it is okay if you want to unmute and join this conversation because I'm just about to ask you a question. But the case for daily reading, and this is kind of a good thing. If a parent said to you, why are you making my kid read? Or you were in front of your parents for back to school, the best thing that we can offer is like, this is something that, besides the language and brain development, because obviously I think that is the big obvious one, it actually introduces our students to the world outside of what they know. And I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of daily reading. And I love it as a parent and as a teacher because I have used reading stories as a way to strengthen relationships. Something that I do at the beginning of the school year, I always pick a book that I know is going to set the conversation for the rest of the year. And I think sometimes we even make a mistake. I taught fifth grade for most of my years. I taught fourth and first. And then, of course, I've homeschooled my kids from pre-K to seventh. And I think sometimes we think the older students don't necessarily enjoy the reading out loud. And I just think that they actually love it and they miss it. And no matter how old your students are, that read aloud time is such a bond. It forms that bond that we really want, especially at the beginning of the year. And really, storytelling and reading is one of the best ways to get all of that stuff stuck in your head. And that's what I want to ask you. What do you love about reading, or why do you read? And so if you want to unmute yourself and share, I would love to hear your answers. Or if you want to put it in the chat and you don't mind if I read your answers.
So definitely raise your hand so we can make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak and no one speaks over each other, or you can throw it in the chat.
And while we're waiting, something I forgot to say is I did link this daily. I put an article for the daily reading, and that's something if you wanted to share with your parents at the beginning of the school year, just to kind of reinforce the importance of that. I did put an article. Of course, there's tons of articles to support why daily reading is so important. I did ask this to our educator community on Facebook, and I was like, do you consider yourself an avid reader, and why do you read? And, a few people responded, and we talked about like, sometimes the one that stuck out the most to me is like the modeling from the parents. This person said, I am a reader. When my parents took me to the library when I was younger, we read stories together. That's what really instilled that love for me. And we talked about like your favorite spot as a reader. Is that something that is important to you? I know that every weekend, I don't feel like I did the weekend right if I don't cuddle up I love my bed. If I don't cuddle up in my blankets, and I have a bed that like moves up and down like a hospital bed, but it's a Tempur-Pedic, so it's so comfortable. And it's the only bed I've ever loved. It's the only brand new bed I've ever had, although it's not brand new. It's probably time to get a new one. But I don't consider it a weekend if I haven't gotten to read one story in my favorite spot, feeling so cozy. And it doesn't matter if it's a if you know me, I love a good steamy romance novel, or if it's an education book that helps grow, my strength and my skill set. But I'm just curious, am I missing anybody? We have a quiet group today.
No, did you see the chat yet? Because I can read it from the chat.
Oh, okay. I didn't. It's not notifying me.
Okay,
Oh
well,
my
no,
gosh.
that's okay. I was ready to read. So it says,
So,
I like reading because I can escape reality and go on adventures. It allows students to work on skills and transport themselves to what they are reading about. It helps you connect with others and develop empathy. I love reading adult books during the summer after a full school year of reading great children's books.
oh my goodness. I love those. All of those responses resonate with me so much. And it takes me back to, I don't know, like if you are somebody that sticks to one genre, but I actually had teachers. I would just stick, of course, when I first started reading Matilda. Oh my gosh, in the chat, tell me if there was one book that really like got you into reading. I will say it was in fourth grade when I read Matilda by, I always say his name wrong, but Dahl. I always say his name wrong. But that was the first book that just made me laugh out loud. And I read it every year for like years, even though it might have been, too young for me. I didn't care. I loved it. I see the comments. Anne of Green Gables. Oh my gosh. Yes. Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. I haven't read that one. Island of the Blue Dolphin. That was popular when I was younger as well. And so these books, and my teachers, of course, my teachers loved reading. I don't think I had one teacher that didn't love reading. I had one teacher that challenged us and actually expected us and forced us to read a smattering of genres. So we had to read like 3 nonfiction books in a year. And, of course, back in my day, I'm 40 something years old. So we had to do the traditional book reports and sometimes the oral book reports. And I will say that I kind of dreaded those, but at least it got me into nonfiction. And that's when I discovered that I actually love biographies and reading about people. Oh, that's so cool. Hillary, she added an E to her name. That's great. All right. So you know why reading is so important. Like, we are avid readers. And it's not because like we were forced to read. We have our favorite spots to read. Those are things that we know that we learn so much in the reading. And I wanted to bring that up because sometimes, and I am guilty of this in the classroom, I've had reading logs, probably some sort of reading log for my 5th graders, 4th graders, and even my 1st graders. And I think that sometimes those practices can kind of destroy the love of reading, or if we use them to punish kids who don't actually complete the reading logs, and sometimes we don't even have other good ideas like how to get beyond that reading. We know that daily reading is important, and we know it's important because it helps us with all these different things that we just talked about. But how do we get our students to understand that? And how do we get our parents on board? So that's what I really wanted to talk about today. And it's not because, the reading log is sometimes like a last ditch effort, but as well as I do, that those reading logs get lost. So I would just write my name, sign my name. I was a parent and a teacher, full-time working. And sometimes I didn't have the energy to read with my kids or even really see if they were reading. I would sign my name. And if you don't really, for teachers that don't really care, they just want to make sure that, that at least somebody says it's happening. that doesn't really encourage the love of reading, and it doesn't always have the effect that we want it to. And sometimes it can be used as a punishment. I've seen it like kids lose recess because they didn't have their reading log. I've seen, and some of these crimes in reading I've committed myself as just an ignorant person. Making kids read during recess because they didn't do their reading logs, or give them a lower grade in language arts because of that. I mean, these are things that happen all the time. And as we know more and we want to do better, and as we have different ways of showcasing like the love of reading, we can move beyond those reading logs. So I also want to talk about Spaces. I am the community person for Spaces. And I love Spaces. I use it with my kids as well. And one of the reasons that I love it so much is that it is a master engagement tool. And when you get excited about something, what do you want to do? You want to share it. And Spaces allows those artifacts of learning to be shared. And so today I'm going to talk about how to use it and twist it like in a way just for reading. If you don't want to use it for anything else, but you need something to really engage and give that feedback with your learners about reading, it's going to be an amazing tool. And again, I hyperlink this, so it will take you to the Spaces website. If you have not signed up, it's free for teachers, and it will take you there. And so what do you do when you mix, when you want that engagement, when you want that feedback, when you want to have that conversation with your students about the books that they're reading, and you really want them to want to read, like you don't want it to be a chore or a hassle, and you know inside that it can be that way because you feel that way. What do you do? And so today I'm really going to talk about creating a class in Spaces dedicated just for this. And I want to call it a book club. You may not want to call it a book club. You may want to, if you have more than one class, you may have to call it something else. But the reason I want to call it a book club is I want that that welcome. Everybody wants to be in a club and everybody wants to feel included. So when we call it a club and then we include people, it just creates that intimate space, and it kind of sets the tone that this isn't just homework or class assignments. This is something that your students can do and embrace and feel included. And I am huge on classroom community, and it just builds all of that. And again, we're strengthening bonds and showcasing that love of learning. And I wouldn't be surprised that at the end of this year, if this is implemented, that you have students tell you, I didn't used to like to read at all. Like, I thought reading really wasn't for me. But now I see that it is. And I think that could actually happen once you implement this. And so that's what we're going to do today, mostly focus on. I do have some resources at the end to share as well. So let's create a book club class. I'm going to do this. I have everything hyperlinked, and I did a screenshot because this is actually what it looks like. And I really do. Let's see. This is going to take you to the website. And if you haven't signed up before, you will sign up and everything. But I just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like. You don't have to do this just yet. And you don't have to do it at all if you don't want to. You can keep this as a resource. But so once you create a class in Spaces, this is kind of where all your classes are. And this is my personal Spaces, the one that I actually use with my own kids. I've been homeschooling for the last couple of years. And so I call, the school that we're doing McAllister Academy. But I did create a book club, and I'm going to invite you if you want to be a part of it. And so that's what it looks like on the screen. And this is what your students will see. They'll see the class, they'll go to the book club. And something I just want to keep in mind is that, and I have this hyperlink to a lesson that spells it out when I say model and launch, because everything we do, we model, model, model. I do not think that we could model enough. And so I want to set this up with, when you start with Spaces or any ed tech tool, and before you go deep, I think sometimes we want to show all the features and everything. And I am guilty of that as well. But honestly, when you go into this Spaces and you want to create it for your book club, model, model, model. And if you stay in the class feed where you're talking, that's if you've never been to Spaces before, maybe you haven't been to our previous webinars with Dean or myself, and you're not really sure what Spaces is. I probably should have gone with there. Are there any questions? I see the chats.
No, you're good.
Okay, great. So, and I can show that to you in just a little bit, but I want to say in the class feed model, I want you to take time to like really get in that conversation with your students, show your expectations through that. You know, what you expect your work to be. Use those moments where maybe they don't talk the kindest to their classmates or even to you. Use those as teachable moments. Model in the class feed. And then once you are able, once you feel like your students know what you expect, and I'm going to show you some prompts in just a second about when I talk about this, but what they expect, then you can start assigning as an activity. And you might be like, Melody, what is an activity? These are all parts of the Spaces platform. And it might not make sense just yet, but these are actually good steps. You model in the class feed, then you start assigning as an activity between the student and yourself. And the activities through Spaces, you can actually give them feedback as they submit. They can resubmit. And what you're doing is you're getting that feedback loop. And a lot of times when we're teaching, starting feedback loops is so hard. Like, where do you find the time? What I love about our Spaces platform is that it naturally puts it into, you know, your classroom, your routines, and you don't have to spend too much extra time on extra stuff. You know, it just becomes something you can easily integrate. And I apologize if I'm sticky. You guys are my first conversations of the day. It's a little bit earlier in Alaska. And then once you've modeled it, once your students get the hang of it and know what you expect, then you can create an individual space where students are just sharing what they love. Maybe I'm going to show you some prompts in just a second. And once you've shown them everything that you want them to really understand about reading, that's when they understand the expectation of reading all week long, having that book, reading daily. Then you have that individual space where they can share their reflections about whatever they're reading, and they have the language that they need to have when they talk about it with you, because you've already modeled it and assigned it. So it's just like when I talk about model and launching, I'm talking about how do you start when I'm thinking of Shark Week, you know, how do you start in the shallows and then get really deep, you know, and you know, great whites, they're in the shallows now too. I was going to say, how do you get to the great whites? But after this Shark Week, great whites are everywhere. It's so, oh gosh, I'm sorry, guys. My humor is a little bit on the strange side. What I did was I love Canva. Now, your creation tool of choice, whether it's Buncee, whether it's Adobe, whatever it is welcome. I just happen to be a Canva lover. And so I created some templates, and all of these are clickable. That's why I said, and I put them in the resource as well. Okay, and so you have this template, and once you want to use this template, you can change it up any way that you want. So it doesn't have to say Mrs. McAllister, because I don't think there's any other McAllister in here. So actually every one of these is clickable. And I thought, what could you put in your class feed, you know, to use as models? And how could you start it in a way that embraces, you know, or embraces every learner, but also doesn't feel super hard? Like, we don't want to go to the deep end just yet. We want to stay in the shallows. We want all of our students to think, oh yeah, like maybe I am a reader, when they've never considered themselves a reader before. And so Mrs. McAllister's top 5 books, like these are actually really books that I love. And Matilda truly is like the book that just made me fall in love with reading. That may even be a prompt that you want to share as you get into your Spaces class. And I actually think that I'm going to show you what I mean, there we go. So when I talk about a prompt, like what would you put at the very beginning of your class feed? What could you share? And so that's what I'm talking, that's what these Canva templates are for. Of course, you don't need them at all. In our platform, you could record yourself in a video. You could just type it out. You could upload any graphic that you had. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm just sharing this in case it's something that you are interested. And the reason that I'm doing that is because you could even share this template with your students. And I added it as a URL. But once you talk about with your students, so you put this in the prompt, You talk about your 5 books, and then you write in there, hey, everyone, this is our book club, and I want to know your favorite books of all time. And then so you're wanting that exchange of ideas, and you're asking them to comment. And so maybe they want to use this URL that you give them, this template, to create their own top 5 books, and they can actually upload it into the comments. Or maybe they want to just talk about, they can click on the microphone and add the audio. Maybe they want to record a little video, or again, add the URL or a file that they already have, or one that they create. So this is a great way to start your book club in a very kind of shallow way. And you can think of other prompts. In fact, if you think of what are some other conversation starters about books, you can put those in the chat and we will read those. And again, you don't have to make a graphic from Canva at all, but if you like to do that, like I do, this is the template, and you can even share this with your students. So that's why I wanted to showcase that to you with you. And I'm going to look in the chat. What are some other prompts that you could think of? You're not deep questions, but maybe some questions to ask your readers at the very beginning. If you have any of those ideas, please share in the chat. This is actually a really deep, I don't know why I put this right here. Sometimes I don't realize how deep things are until I'm really thinking. But also something that I love to do is talk about like alternate endings. So I made this graphic to talk about the story I just finished could also end in different ways. And they could actually, you could make this as a prompt, and then this is also a template. And so you could share this with your students, and you could also make one for your own. And then the students would actually get to create, 5 different endings, alternate endings. And the cool thing about it is if you teach writing as well, you could actually turn that into a writing project eventually. Other prompts, books I want to read, these are different books. And what I did not do is link these books. I want to show you, these books are awesome. Some of them are, and this is kind of how you get to those templates. If you just kind of keep on clicking, I wanted to showcase that if you've never done that before. But these books I want to read, and I'll add this to the resources. One is Diversity. It's not about you, it's about us. And this is actually a play that Dean Gainey wrote, and he's in our webinar today. So thanks, Dean. This is a great book to read. President of the Whole 6th Grade, it's behind me. The Expert Expedition, Everyone Can Learn Math, Tales from the Fringes of Fear, Clara Perseveres. These are actually really good books. I actually put those on purpose. If you are trying to make a library that is full of representation and full of really deep ideas, I wanted to showcase those books, and I will add all the links. I don't think I did, but I meant to, but I'll add all the links for these books. But again, you can just talk about the books that you want to read, and you don't even have to make them children's books. You are a whole person. Embrace that. Show your students that there are books that you love to read, that I am actually, all the books that I love to read are X-rated. So I was trying to think, like, I can't put those books. I don't want to tell my students I'm going to read all those books. I would probably have to find a tamer way to share that I love romance books. But like, it's wonderful to show our students that we are whole people, that we don't just read education books. We don't just live in our classroom. Like, there are things that interest us. I'm trying to get to safer subjects, get away from my my silly mind. But I love to cook as well, and I love to learn new recipes. So these are things that we can show our students that we want to read, and maybe kind of, oh, there are books on cooking. I love to cook. I've never considered myself much of a reader, but I love to bake. And so once we get that club going, if I'm doing this well, maybe you understand the spirit of this, where we help our students understand that it's not just about class reading. It's not just about book reports. Like, there are things about everything that you could find a book on. And something that I would really encourage you to do as well is accept anything that students want to read. Maybe they aren't your typical book. Maybe it's a magazine. maybe it's a graphic novel, and probably everyone in here, you know that graphic novels are wonderful. And, some of our students and my own children, my personal children, love graphic novels. And so, of course, I get graphic novels all the time just because I want them to read. But if I'm being honest, yes, I want them to be able to read a chapter book as well. I don't want them to only read one type of literature. But I think to get those well-rounded readers, you have to be accepting. And sometimes our readers, they don't even know they're readers yet, and they haven't found that book. And sometimes, a chapter book is daunting. So being able to accept different types of literature to read, maybe it is a magazine article. Maybe it's a dictionary, maybe it's a thesaurus. We've got so many different kinds of readers. We have so many different kinds of students, whatever really just gets them going and reading and sharing about their reading is appropriate. So, and being able to model that as a teacher, as a whole person, will also invite your students as whole people as well. And again, these are all prompts. You just click on them, and I've also put them in my resource page. They are all there. I'm going to show you. Their templates are right here. And of course, there's just so many more models that you can, prompts to model. Describe the main character in your story with 4 traits. And I'm kind of thinking, like, in the Spaces platform, you can also pull up the different standards. And I'm thinking of like character traits in ELA, right? And how have they changed over time? Those are things that I really think resonates with students as well, because we do change over time. And that's a great SEL discussion as well. More prompts. Name some morals of the story. Something that I used to teach, I think in my younger years, that I didn't do very well. I'd always be like, what's the moral of the story? Well, you and I both know that stories have more than one moral, and there's more than one lesson. And what sticks out with some students will be different from what sticks out to other students. And so being able to have that sharing time. And I think this is a great prompt. What's the moral of the story? Or what message, what theme, what lessons did the author hope you as the reader would see or learn? And which one really resonated with you? I think this is a great prompt. And this might be one that you use after a few weeks of doing this. And then, of course, my reading spot feels like this might be something that you do at the beginning. It doesn't have to be super deep. You're just kind of you're inviting them. Maybe they're like a reading spot. I don't have a reading spot, but I need to get a reading spot. And maybe this is like a new thing. And you can share about how, oh my gosh, you love to go on your deck outside where you're with nature. And, or maybe it's raining, just being outside. This is where I would share, like, I love to shut the door, be by myself in my room with my covers all around me, and just get into my reading for that escape. And I imagine myself somewhere else. And this reader in this prompt, she's probably not hanging on, in the middle of the sky, but that's where she feels like that's what reading does. It transports us. And so I think that once we develop that love of learning, we kind of have a reading spot. And you know what? I love reading so much, but I also need to be with my kids. So sometimes I read a book right in front of my kids. Maybe they're watching a dumb YouTube on TV, which I hate, but they love it. So I let them do it. But I want them to see me read as well. So we could talk about all of that. It's just great conversation, just being real with your students. More ideas to use as prompts. And I didn't create any Canva prompts, but you could. And if you wanted to share with the world, you could. But of course, making inferences. And it's like, how do we get our kids in a club talking about inferences? But I think there's a great way to do it. And there's a good way to start in the shallows and go into the deep, drawing conclusions. And I have to tell you this story. The first time, when I first started teaching in 2004, I was a science teacher. I think I was a science and math teacher for my first 2 years. And then by my 3rd year, I was a science teacher. And I was very science and analytical, and just that's what I did. Well, my 4th year, I actually moved to the Garland area, and I helped open this elementary. And I was the only 5th grade teacher, and I had to teach everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was such a learning curve for me. And I remember I just didn't do a great job of teaching drawing conclusions, because I remember my students were like, I don't know how to do this. I'm just thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking, we've done this, we've talked over it, but they're thinking, How do you draw it? Like, you know, do I use a pencil? Like, do I use a pen? Do I use a marker to draw these conclusions? And I realized that I didn't laugh then. That was not funny because I'm pretty sure it was during a test that that I was being graded on, that they were being assessed over as well, about drawing conclusions. Anyway, funny story, makes me laugh now because obviously I had a lot to learn about reading. You could make a prompt about the plot, and I always like to talk about plot like a movie. And of course, I love to introduce books that are movies, but of course, read the book first, right? I don't know about you, but if I see the movie, I'm not going to read the book. So I have to read the book first, and then I will see the movie. But, you know, using movies to show plot really helps correlate that with the reading as well. And you can make prompts for that. And the reason that I love using spaces for this as well is that, you know, our learners and our readers, they're not going to understand all of this in the first try, and that's okay. You're introducing the vocabulary a lot of the times, or maybe you're in secondary and this is like, you know, this is stuff that they've already been working on. So you just never know the range of learners that you're going to have, or the range of readers. But it's okay if this is something that develops over time. You're introducing it, you're modeling it, and then they're going to see it more and more as they read as well. I think comparing and contrasting is probably one of the best ways to really help to get the, I think it's just a natural way of learning. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but when I read, I start comparing the books that I'm reading, like, oh my gosh, this made me think of this book, or oh my gosh, it made me think of this book, but this is where it's very different. And I love that compare contrast over different books, over different genres. And I loved it when, you know, so I grew up in a very, very, I'll just say religious household. The Bible, the Holy Bible, was probably the first book that I ever really read. I just pleaded with my mom, please go to the book fair and get us more books. I need some chapter books. And in fourth grade, she did. That's how I got Matilda. But the Bible was always a part of our lives. And I will say that as I got older and I started reading my Harlequin romance books, I remember seeing like references from the Bible, or even references from, what is it, the Iliad and the Odyssey, that I had to read my freshman year of high school. And I remember like, oh my gosh, like when I was reading a book of choice and it would refer to a book that I was reading at school, like one of the classics, right? Or The Great Gatsby. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's what that means. And I loved having those correlating moments. And I think that's definitely something we could model as well with our students. And of course, prompts for genres. And again, I like to share that I didn't really care about nonfiction until it was my second or third grade teacher. She said, you have to read 3 nonfiction books. And that's when I learned that I really, really love learning about people. And if it's a biography or autobiography, I am all in. And also we listened to the Beatles and Elvis. They were some of my first biographies. And Helen Keller was another one that really, when I was younger, just like, ooh, wow, you know. So if something is coming to your mind about a prompt, I'm going to look at the chat and kind of see what's going on. Oh, you're welcome, Dean. You're so awesome. But what are some prompts that you think might be good to ask your students? Oh, books that you like to read with a loved one. Yes, I like that, Meredith. I love, Emily, that you read so much with your 4-year-old. Well, I'm going to go for the sake of time. I am, I guess we're okay. I guess we're okay for the sake of time. But why the author chose to go the direction he or she went with the character. I love that, Dean. Yes. And I love that you're trying to get inside of the head of the author. It's kind of creepy and cool at the same time, right? I'm just joking. And I think that kind of goes along with the 5 alternate endings, which probably shouldn't have been at the very beginning. But if you think of that, what direction could the author go in, right? What direction, what could happen? Have you ever read a book and you're just like, this is not how it should have ended? My husband gets so mad at me because if the book ends poorly, or I'm just like so upset because it's a series and I don't have the next book and I'm very angry because I just invested all my time in this book and it just did not end the way that I wanted it to. And then I'm like, so mad. He's like, listen, don't blame me for what happened in your book. Okay. And you could, what are the alternate endings that you would prefer the way that this would end? And again, you could turn that into a writing assignment, like rewrite the ending, which may get a lot of eye rolls too, but hey, we got to read, we got to write. So if you want to with me, let's create a book club. And actually, this is a resource. I'm going to try to help you create a book club. You can just listen in right now and just watch, or you can actually join my book club in a second. Everything is hyperlinked. And I wanted to show you this screenshot because once you get into your class, okay, this is my book club that I'm going to invite you in just a second. You go to the people tab, okay, and then you go to the students and you invite your students, okay. And I wanted to show you that it's very easy to invite your students, and that's why I have that on there. And I always get where there it is. And this is all hyperlinked. If you don't know how to invite your students, this is either goes to an article or a video to show you how to do that. But again, we go to the people tab. And then once you have your book club, and this is something that you could do today if you wanted to, or in preparation for when your students come. And if you are a secondary teacher and you teach a lot of classes, you may decide to have a book club for every class, or you may have a book club, a huge book club for all of your classes that all of your students could talk about. You're forming that community. It's what's up with, there are things in my mind, like there are group spaces and individual spaces inside of the Spaces platform, and you could mix it up. Like if you decided to invite everybody from all of your different periods, you could actually, you could help your students like have different conversations if you get to that point. But that's later on, once you've understood the platform and once you decide you kind of step back and let yourself be a facilitator. But that's a little beyond for right now. But once you've created your class, you've invited your students, that's when you would actually create your prompt. And again, it's really cool because they can share however they prefer. They can do what you did, or they can just share. And again, you don't even have to make a prompt with a Canva graphic. You can write it or type it or record yourself in there. So now is the time. If you want to sign up and create your book club and preparation, this is the QR code. Okay. So this will get you your free account to Spaces if you wanted to start doing your book club right now. And I'm going to just let this be on the screen, and then I'm going to invite you to mine. So I want you to know, and I'll just show you the next screen and I'll go back and forth. Okay. And then the next QR code is joining my book club. When you join my book club, you'd actually be a student, and you can toggle back and forth from being a student and a teacher. So that's why I wanted you to sign up first, and that way you have it. So it's already there once you want to start creating that book club. So I'll leave this up for a minute. And while I'm leaving it up for a second, I'm going to look at the chat. For those of you who are parents as well, I'm just curious, do you read with your older kids, or do you feel like this is something that I've personally thought about lately, because I feel like sometimes I get so busy with work and things that I don't make reading a priority with my own children. I make it a priority for myself, and I know I'm modeling that with my kids, but how do you feel about that as a parent and as a teacher? And I really struggle with that, because I feel like I'm not practicing what I preach. I know reading is so important, but if I haven't, I think it's summer break, and at the beginning of the summer, I was like, you have to read. But now I'm just I haven't done very good at that. And I'm just wondering if there's any parents out there that have any tips or struggles. Books that you like to read with a loved one and why. Favorite series. That's a good prompt. Yes. Oh, and I've already read that. I'm sorry. I have new messages. Oh, how do I join your book club without a QR code? I will show that to you. I read with all of my kids. I read with my older ones mostly in the summer to force them to read. Yes, I'm not mom. Don't judge me. I'm not judging you, Meredith. I think you're pretty amazing. Okay. Okay. So thank you, Gail, for that. If you want to join this, I'm going to exit out of this so I don't keep. If you want to join my Spaces class, okay, my book club, I am going to invite you as a student, and you would actually go to Spaces. You would have to go to Spaces edu, okay, log in, but you're actually going to log in as a student. I'm going to click out this as well. This is my class, and then you have a class code. So this is your class code right here. And I will copy it and I will put it. Oh, you know what? No. I don't want to copy that. I'm going to copy the link. Okay. I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay. So if you wanted to join, there is the link and it has the class code on it as well. You know what? And I'll copy the code and I'll put that in there. This is the code. So you should be able to go to that link if you don't want to do the QR code and join my book club. And guys, we could really make this a book club. Like this doesn't have to be just a demo. This could be a real book club. And let's see, nobody's joined my class yet. No pressure, but nobody's joined my class yet, guys. So this is where you can join my book club with the QR code. And I also put the link in there. I don't really sit. I like my Bitmoji, but I don't sit on those things. What are those things called? Beanbag chairs? I think kids love beanbag chairs, but if your kids are like mine, they always get destroyed so fast. But they actually make beanbags for adults now, like those huge ones. I wouldn't mind having one of those. And I love when I set up my classroom, I like it to feel as cozy. And I think that stems from my love of reading and feeling cozy. Like that's where I want to learn. So I always try to make my classroom feel super cozy. All right. I'm going to see if anybody has joined my class. Oh, maybe I need to. All right. And that's okay. If nobody wants to join in today, that is okay. You don't have to. If there's any confusion, let me know. It's totally okay if you don't want to join my book club. I'm not going to cry about it or start sniffling in just a second. But since you're here, I wanted to show you how easy it is to create. Like, let's say that you pretend that this prompt isn't here. Okay, you want to create a prompt. Or if you end up coming, maybe you can just decide which. Oh, Dean is there. Thank you, Dean. He rescued me. He's such a good friend. This is so easy, okay? I feel like the Spaces platform is so user-friendly. So of course you see that blue button, create, and you want to post. And you know what? You don't even have to use a prompt. So I'm going to show you, like, welcome. We're going to make a post that doesn't use anything like a graphic. So maybe if that puts you out of your comfort, welcome to our classroom book club. Okay. Let's see. Oh, what book or what are you reading? Let's say maybe it's not a book. Maybe they're reading a magazine or article. What are you reading today? Okay. I love reading. Do you love reading? If no, wait. If yes, what book made you, I was gonna like, what book hooked you? Okay. If no, why? And I say that if no, because our students, you know, some of them don't feel like they're readers yet. When I talked about this with our community, I had a grown man educator who said he's always struggled with reading because his second grade teacher, and I know that none of us in here would ever do this, but his second grade teacher told him that he would never be a good reader. And he may have like some, I don't know, I didn't ask him, but he may be dyslexic, you know, because he said that he's really good at reading out loud. And I don't know, maybe that's not anything to do with dyslexia. But like, I think that's, I mean, he's older than me. So I think that what we say and how we say it really, you know, can make a student feel included or excluded. And I think this man has, and he's an educator as well, you know, has probably always had in some form had to prove himself that he is a reader or not. So that's why I really try to word everything so that people don't feel like this is not for them. Okay. I love reading. Do you love reading? If yes, what book hooked you? If no, why? Okay. And then and so as you can see, I am not adding anything. I'm not adding any camera. Oh, you know what? I'm going to add audio because I think to be a really inclusive teacher. So some students, they would struggle reading that prompt, even though I didn't put a lot of words, you know. Hey, everybody. I am an avid reader. An avid reader means that I like to read a lot. And the first book that hooked me was Matilda. But I want to know, are you an avid reader? Do you read a lot? What book hooked you? And if you're not an avid reader, why not? What keeps you from being an avid reader? Okay, and if you like that, I do like the audio feature because I feel like it includes everybody. So I definitely want to add that, and it's already in the platform. You could also create a video and see, you have the video option here. I'm not going to do a video. I don't even know that it would since I'm with Zoom, because usually when I'm with Zoom, it doesn't let me do the video as well, but but I'll do a picture. Oh my gosh, I'll do a picture with me in my book. Okay. Just to show you all the difference. And you know what I want to share about this story is that it is in dyslexic font. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this is such a weird font, it is dyslexia or dyslexia font. So I take a picture. Maybe I could pretend, oh, no. I don't want to take a picture of my book. I want to take a picture of Dean's book. Okay. Like, hey, I want to read, you know, take a picture. Oh, I look so cute. Okay. Put that in there too. And see, you don't even have to have a Canva account or anything. You could just go with what you have. And after, you can add up to like 10 different files. Once you're done, boom, you hit the next button. Yes, I want this for my book club class. Oh, I got a whole bunch of students. Oh, thank you so much, Dean, Gail, Meredith, and Samantha. I'm going to click all of my students. And so there we go. That could be a prompt. It could be your first prompt. And then my students, if you're in my class, maybe choose a prompt that you want to answer to. Meredith already. Oh my gosh, Meredith. Oh, you're amazing. So Meredith said she's like top 5 books of all time. Look at this. She is a reader, or she did top 4, and that's okay. I'm not going to get like punitive on this. Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, and forgive me if I said that wrong, Where the Watermelons Grow. Oh gosh, that's cool. That reminds me of Where the Red Ferns Grow. Professional Troublemaker. Okay, I got to know more about that. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. These sound fascinating. Thank you for these choices. I love it. I'm going to put the heart there. I'm going to reply to Meredith. I could reply to her in any way that I wanted. I could do another audio. I could do a video, add a URL or file. I'm going to just text her. Thank you for sharing these books, Meredith. I definitely want to check out the Professional Troublemaker. That sounds a lot like me, to be honest, Meredith. I do get in trouble a lot, but the principal's office and me, we are not strangers, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so that's all you do. Oh, I hit return, but or enter. You just hit that little arrow. And so there, you know, so look at us, what we're modeling. Meredith, thank you so much for answering this. So now I'm modeling some type of feedback. And Meredith, you responded well, and you responded in the way that you felt comfortable. You didn't have to make it a big production. And then I responded back to you. And like, I think this is a great way to show students that they're seen, right? And that they're worth responding to. I had a friend tell me one time, she said, you know, you always talk to my kids. And this is a personal friend, and her kids were maybe in middle school and high school at the time. You always talk to my kids. And I'm like, yeah, like, don't most people? And she said, no. she said most people, and she said even herself, she's like, when she goes to her friend's house or she talks to her friends, she doesn't talk to their kids. And maybe you're probably like me because you're an educator and kids don't scare you, right? Like they're people, you see them as people. But I don't know, like it really woke me up to the fact that young people are not always like seen. They're not always validated. I think that's a lot of the reasons why school can be a refuge, but also why there's like a lack of relationship, you know? And so the more that we can validate the young people, just the better off that they're going to be. And I just think being seen and being heard, man, that just makes everyone feel better. Oh my gosh, Gail responded. And now, Meredith, you can also respond to Gail. I think maybe, well, let me see. I wonder if I am going to go make sure that all the, I'm going to edit my class. I'm going to make sure that everybody can see. Oh, reactions. Great. Okay. They can see. So tell me if you, can you see each other's comments? Can you respond to the comments on here as well? Like Dean, do you see Gail's, and Gail's, do you see? Oh my gosh, look at this. There's you go. Oh, somebody did already. So you can see each other's. That's just automatic. I love that. Look at that. Look at this emoji. Little Rascals. Yes. Island of the Blue Dolphins. Big Ben. Old Yeller. Oh my gosh. Gail. I'm just going to do an audio with this one. Gail, I'm so excited that you put Old Yeller on your list because I just read that with my 5th grade son this previous school year. And honestly, I didn't think I was going to like Old Yeller for a lot of reasons. And there were some things that we needed to talk about in Old Yeller that probably wouldn't fly today or shouldn't fly today. So it was a great conversation, but the storyline was wonderful. And it actually became a book that my son really enjoyed. So thank you for sharing. See how easy this is? Boom. And there's my feedback. Right? So, oh, wonderful. And Dean, look at that. Dean, you are talking with your, oh my gosh, Dean, see all this. This is community building right here. I love it. And you're setting the tone. Now, if you said something mean, I could also use it as a teachable moment, but I know that you would never do that because you're not like that. Oh my gosh, Dean, I love your list. I'm going to clap on that one. A Wrinkle in Time and Holes. Oh my gosh. So how will I respond to you, Dean? Can I do a video? Will it let me do a video? No, it won't let me do a video. I really want to do a video. Is it recording? Maybe it's recording. Dean, I love the books that you listed. Also, Holes and Wrinkle in Time. Oh my gosh, they are 2 of my favorite books as well. Thank you for sharing. And I'll check out the other ones, even though, just to be honest with you, I already forgot what they are. Dean is my friend, but I probably should have said that. Anyway. Oh my gosh, it's so cool that it let me do a video in there. And then there's my video. And see, you could also do this. You can respond in any way that you wanted to. I love, you guys are amazing students. I love reading. This is Samantha. She has responded to this prompt. Welcome to our classroom. What are you reading today? I love reading. It fills my bucket and soothes my soul. I love the storybook. Somebody Loves You. Oh, I don't know that one, but it sounds so sweet. So I will, oh, did she write? Oh no, that's me. So sorry. Thank you, Samantha. I will have to check out that book. Oh, I love this. You guys are amazing students. And like really exemplar students, like you're already, responding to each other's prompts. But I hope you get the idea that like you don't have to use Canva or any sort of graphic. You can use whatever you have right there, and your students can too. And this is just such a way to form community, a way for students to feel seen, and a way to really help them understand that maybe they weren't readers, but now they're in your class and they're readers now because you care about them so much, and you know that you can welcome wherever they are in the learning process or the reading process. You are here for it. And it takes away from that punitive part of it. And another thing about this is really cool. And now that I actually have some students in here, I can create an individual space. Okay, so I am going to create an individual space, and I can make a group space too, but I'm going to go ahead and create an individual space. And so once I click on all the students, I'm actually creating an individual space for each student. So the space that I create for Dean, only Dean and I will see it. The space I create for Emily, only Emily and I will see it. And Gail and Meredith, Samantha, we will only see each other's responses. Dean will not see Emily's stuff. Gail will not see Meredith, and so forth. Okay, and it's so easy. All right, and so then this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. So I want to call this the reflection. We'll call this the book reflection, or maybe reading reflection, because maybe they're not reading an actual book. Reading, and I'm always trying to make sure that everything is inclusive and where people feel like they belong. So this is reading reflection space. I'll just put space or space. Okay, and my description. This is where you will share with me what you are reading every week. You know, the book log, the daily reading log, we want students to read every single day, right? We want that 20 minutes of reading. But the reality of it is that not all of our students are going to read 20 minutes every day. We want to get away from punishing them. And also, as our older students know, or even our readers that maybe they're not as old, but they read on a high level, maybe they're reading a book that takes them 2 weeks to finish. So we don't want them to have to feel like they have to have a new book every week or every day. So my expectation for my reading reflection space, and two, because, you know, the time that I want to spend on this as well with my own boundaries, this is where you will share with me what you are reading every week. So my expectation with my students is that they will share with me once a week. And I will know if they're reading or not. But honestly, I feel like that is doable for all parties involved. This is where you will share with me what you're reading every week. You can share with me however you like. And I'm going to put, you can voice, video, upload a file, or graphic. Or a combo of them all, because some of your creative students are going to, like, you know, they're going to be so excited about something that they're going to want to share in different ways. And I'm just going to put pink because I like pink. And you could also, again, if you wanted to make a graphic for this, you could upload or create, or, you know, the audio again. I'm going to create an audio because I really want to model this. Hey, everybody, this is your reflection space. Only you and I will see it. No other students in the class will see what you are sharing. My expectation is that you will share about something you are reading every week. And it's okay if you don't finish a book a week. I understand that sometimes we read, or if you are reading a book and you don't want to finish it because it's a terrible book, you don't have to. I just want to know what you're reading, and I want you to share it in the way that you feel confident. And so once you do this, like, remember how I talked about model and launch? Once you've modeled this over and over and over in your class feed, and your students understand, like, that they can create a graphic, they've already gone through the process of creating a graphic. Maybe 1 week you just have them use the video, like, you steer them, teach them how to use these different tools, so that you can put these expectations in there, and they won't be like, what are you talking about? I've never done this before. It's all there. And obviously, because it's in the whole class space, they can always refer back to whatever they've done in the past. So it works out. I'm going to save this. Okay. So now you should, Dean, Emily, Gail, Meredith, and Samantha, you should be able to see this in your personal space. Okay. And once you've shared something with me, so if Dean creates something in this reading reflection space, only he and I will see it. Okay. This is not what it looks like for the student. This is the teacher dashboard. And you could actually, you know, and I haven't really shown you this, but I'm going to go back into my book space. You can actually tag curriculum. So once you've uploaded your curriculum, because, you know, of course, you want your students to love reading, but you also are responsible for teaching them standards. So you can tag, you go to this little bookmark right here, and I've already uploaded all of the different standards I want to use. So I'm just going to choose one. Ooh, or I could probably go to the English language arts. That would probably be more accurate. Okay, communicate ideas using varied. Okay, we're going to do that one. Okay, that one works for this one right now. So you can also create tag curriculum that you've uploaded for your state. It's all there. And then, you know, you can actually, once you tag that, it'll take you to all of the prompts that you use for these different tags. So I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's okay if it doesn't right now. I always like to say, once you start a new tool, start with the very superficial of it and just go deeper, deeper. And you know what music is playing in my head right now? The Jaws music. Donna, 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 Donna. And it's because I love and I'm obsessed with Shark Week, and it's totally in my head. Yesterday I learned about the Shark House. But anyway, it's like you just bite off a little bit and then you go deeper. And I said this last week in a webinar, but it's okay. Like if you mess up, or maybe I wrote this in a blog with the follow-up. But the thing is that we're never going to get it all right. And it's okay for our students to see us mess up. Maybe we don't use this exactly how we think we should at the very beginning, and we have to edit. Everything, those 3 dots are our friends, right? Edit. Like show your students that it's okay to edit. It's okay to make a mistake. It's, you know, that it's fixable. It's not the end of the world. That will definitely help create a better classroom environment. So as you can see, when your students come into your class, now they have 2 spaces. They have a class space and they have an individual space. Okay. So the class space is where you talk with everybody. It's your book club. Everybody can see everybody's stuff. Okay. This is beautiful. And then you also have your individual space. Oh, and you know what I need to do? I'm sorry. And I need to turn it on for my students. So I need to make it active. I need to save that. So now my students can see it. And if you wanted to invite your family to it, you just go to the People tab. And this is kind of something I'm going to share in the webinar that Dr. Desiree kind of showcased. It's in September, how to make your parents feel involved. I'll go into this a little bit deeper, but you can actually connect parents to your students in the People tab. And then if you wanted to turn that on so that your parents could also see, and I'm just going to show you that, you know, this might be a good, so Dean's parents would only see what Dean and I wrote. Like, they're not going to see what Emily wrote. It's just going to be between Dean and his parents. This might be a really good space so that families have that bridge, that home to school bridge right there. And if this doesn't make you feel comfortable and you don't want the families to see, I understand. You don't have to do that. You could turn it right back off. You know, this is just not something that you feel comfortable with, or maybe it goes against district policy. Turn it off, keep it off. Okay. As long as the students know that they're there. And then let's say that you really get into this. You've modeled it, you've made an activity, and I haven't really shown you how to do an activity yet, and I need to. And your students can have the hang of this. Now you want to create a group space. And I don't know, do you remember how I talked about, like, instead of like doing one for each period, but you had all of your readers in the same book club? This could be something, you could like have readers talk about their books in groups. So all right, so I'm just going to create a book club, and you can change these groups up as you wish. And so you create groups, and maybe this is where you're going to have peer book chats. Okay. And in each group, you will talk about the books you're reading, or maybe I should say about whatever you're reading. Talk about what you are reading outside of class. And then maybe you would have like a prompt. Maybe this week you want your students to focus on character, if they can, or something, or the genre, because genre goes. And so in the group, so Dean, Meredith, and Gail, they would only be able to see each other's responses. And of course, I, as the teacher, would. And then Samantha and Emily and I would be able to see their responses, and I could give them feedback. So now you've created 3 different spaces. You have the class space where you see everybody and everybody sees their responses. You have the individual space where it's just you, it's that one-on-one with the students. And then you have, of course, I want to make this active. And then you have the group space where eventually when you get to that deep end, this is not where you want to start. I'm just hoping that one day you'll come back to this webinar as a resource. Then you can have like peer book chats where they're just talking in small groups. Okay. And I talked about this earlier. Am I doing okay on time? Okay, great. I am. So activities. So once you've kind of established, and I'm going a little bit on the backwards, and I apologize because I went into the different type of spaces, and I should have done the activities first. So I hope that you will forgive me for jumping into the deep end when I still should have been in the shallow. But the activities, if you wanted to do this, you don't even have to do the activities part. But this is where you could actually create, and you can put it in, whatever class you have. I'm gonna do the book club, and you could put it whatever space you are. This could be like, if you want this to be an individual thing, you could put that in the reflection space. You just choose the students. And the reason I want to show this is because it allows for the differentiation. And so you could create a title, and I'm just going to make a simple activity. Describe your perfect reading spot. Okay. And this could be very complex if you wanted to be a very complex activity. For today's purposes, I am just going to make this very simple. Instructions. And obviously when we start with new tools and we have classes, we want to be in the shallow for a little bit so that our students feel comfortable with this. But my instructions are, do you have a favorite reading spot? What does it look like? How does it make you feel? If you don't have a spot, what do you imagine your favorite spot to look like and make you feel? So again, I'm trying to be inclusive, and I'm going to choose the audio. Hey, everybody. I know that I have my own favorite reading spot, and I've told you a little about it. I'm always, even if I'm not in my favorite bed, I'm with my blankets and I feel cozy and cuddly. I have my lamp on. I have my favorite drink. That's my favorite spot. But I want to know about yours. Do you have a favorite spot where you like to read? And if you don't, what would it look like? What does it look like in your mind? A place that you could go to and just read. And and again, the reason I like to do that is because maybe my learners or even my readers aren't really readers. We all have very intelligent students that maybe not on grade level reading, or they may have dyslexia or some other learning, something that interferes with them to be able to read, like our what do you call it, neurotypical students, so how can you still include them? And that's why I try to do the audio feature, because this is about engaging your students. So you want to always be inclusive and engage them, and that's why I want to use the audio feature and kind of showcase that. And this is just how you create your activity. What I didn't share with you on that activity, you could also tie in your standards. You could create due dates if you wanted to. And you could tag, it says curriculum tags. So you could actually add your standards. Oh, that's my SEL. I should go to here. Yeah, and I'm like, these are so deep, some of them. Reflect on, analyze. Ooh. Yeah, these are great. But I'm always like, yes, I'm going to go back to my SEL because I'm not going to choose one that's very good for that. I'm going to, yes, I think so. Yes. Okay. So I chose what I wanted, and obviously it's not the best, but I'm on the spot and I can always change this later. And I don't know if you can tell this about me, but I actually care more about my SEL strategies and my SEL standards than anything else. And so I'm definitely more aware of those, but you're going to fit this and tailor it to what you have for your students and for your class and for your state standards. So there you go. That's how you create an activity. And this will go to all of my students. Yeah. And I am going to check the chat. How is creating activity different than posting a prompt in the group space? Melissa, thank you. So that's such a great question. How's creating activity different than posting a prompt in the group space? So this is the group space right here, or what you would call your class feed. And this is where everybody sees everything at the same time. So like, let's say if you were face-to-face, you would call this your carpet time, or your class discussion time, or maybe your Socratic seminar, where like everybody is engaging, and because it's virtual, or when they can, because even if they're not in class or you're not face-to-face, they can still do this. Or if they're at home, they can do this, right? So, but this is something where everybody sees it at the same time. And Samantha so Dean can see Samantha, what she writes, and she can, and Dean can respond to Samantha. Meredith can respond to Samantha. Emily can, or Meredith, like everybody can see what they're saying. And there's that. And also, if I were grading anything, I definitely would not grade the feed. The activity, even if you don't have those spaces, those individual or group spaces, you can create activities as long as you have your students in there. The activities are going to shoot off to each of your students, okay? And it's like an assignment. Now, if you wanted to take a grade for this, you could. Or we're actually coming out with proficiency skills in our Spaces platform this fall. So it may not be something you want to grade or give a letter grade on. It may be just something that you want to, it's something as part of the rubric that you've created. And also there is no, like, I cannot grade this. Once it's been submitted to me, like you can see the status. If Dean submits this to me, I can give him feedback. Okay, I can give him feedback and then resubmit it to him, and then he could resubmit it to me. But I don't actually put a grade on there. It's just more of a feedback, which to me is the most important part of learning. And there are studies that show that feedback is what brings your students back. The letter grade and handing a paper in with a letter grade. I don't know if you've seen this. I have seen this in all my years. Students dump it. Parents dump it. They don't really care. It's over. That letter grade is like finished. Okay. But the feedback and the feedback loop is so important because that's actually what is proven to draw your students back again and again. So the difference is, and Dean is only going to see what Dean puts in. Dean is not going to be able to see what Emily, Gail, Meredith, or Samantha do. And these students will not see what each other do. So that is another difference between the activity and the feed. And honestly, because, when you're talking about assessment, and looking at overall how students have grown, if you don't feel comfortable assigning grades to this, that's totally, whatever you choose to use it as for your purposes. Oh yeah. If there's any other questions. Oh my gosh, there are. Stanley Yelnats. Yes, he's great. Are there any other questions about what I've showed you?
There's none in the chat right now.
All right. And I kind of want to show you then, if you saw that, I'm going to go back. You see notifications. Notifications is something that we are definitely working on. One of the things about Spaces that we take teacher feedback, it's like gold to us. It's so very important. Something that the feedback for notifications is something that I have shared with our project, our product team or whatever. But this is something that you definitely want to, it'll like, if you don't set the settings, like you'll have a whole bunch of ping, 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 pings. And if you have the app on your phone, you'll be getting like all these notifications. So maybe you don't want that. So you need to go in there and talk about like how you want it to be notified. Like, do you want in-app notifications, email notifications? Definitely take the time to do that. to make sure that it fits in with your boundaries and what you want. Like if you don't want like it's an app on your phone, but you don't want to be notified after school hours, that would be something good. And you can see that I have some, I don't know if you can see, but I definitely have some notifications on my phone. Melissa, do you still have this question? How is creating activity different than the group space? How is creating it than the group space? I am going to mute myself for just a second.
So the question is, how is creating an activity different than posting a prompt in the group space?
And when you mean group space, you don't mean this feed. You actually mean this group space, correct?
She said, sorry, I guess I'm a little unclear on using individual spaces versus making an activity.
Right. Okay. That's such a good question. And it's okay. Because like there's just so much to this platform that it's easy to get lost. So I guess the reason that I like the individual space as opposed to the activity is just that the individual space, I'm creating it. It's almost like a journal, it's just where I'm having these conversations with students, and I don't want there to be a letter grade on this reflection space. I would not put any sort of grade on this reflection space. Okay. And I wouldn't be surprised for students to share things in this reflection space that maybe have nothing to do with reading, but once you've created that safe environment, this may be an area because it's just between you and the student. Okay. So the reflection space is just where I would expect my students to share with me something that they're reading every week. And then I would respond to them and just that feedback loop. Okay. The activity, once you've done the activity, I think would probably more be along the lines, if I was going to grade something from what they did, this would probably be where I would grade it. Now, can you just do activities and not do the individual space? Yeah. Like this is yours. You can design it the way that you like, the way that you feel comfortable. Maybe you never use the activities because you don't feel comfortable with it. That's all right. Or maybe you like the activities. Maybe you want to have as many grades as you can, or you just, you don't even have to take the first few things that they do as grades. Maybe you only take the last few activities where they really understand what you've been teaching. That's something that you decide. You may never have, the individual space. You may just have the class space and the activities. You may never get to the group space with the inside of the book club. You may never get to that peer book chat, and that's okay. You just use this platform as you see fit, as it works for you and your class. And if you start in the shallow with just your class feed before you take off into the deep, and the deep could be the activities or the individual spaces, maybe give yourself a couple months before you go there, or a month, till you feel comfortable. You may know that once you realize that your class has a grip on this, that it's time to go a little deeper. And then maybe that's when you introduce the activities. And then once you feel like they've mastered those activities, they understand the language and vocabulary that you've been introducing, they're excited and they're reading. Maybe that's when you introduce and create the individual space. And then you don't have to do activities anymore. You don't, because it's an expectation that you're reading every week, that you're going to have to tell Mrs. McAllister something that you're reading about every week. So it's just how you see fit. Does feed, activities, and spaces all have a curriculum tag associated to the posting? And Chris, that's a great question, and it's really up to you. I'm pretty sure that you can create a tag for every space. And so whether you do put a curriculum tag on that or not is up to you. Okay. And you don't have to have just like, this is, an ELA, but again, like I have SEL and everything because I try to do my social emotional learning within everything that I'm doing. And at the beginning of the year, your social emotional learning is especially like where you yeah, like that's how you create the buy-in from your students, or how to get them involved, how to get them motivated and inspired. So definitely, that's a good question. When do you click create? You click create whenever you want to create something. So I'm going to show you the different creates. Here's a create. This is the class feed. You see it right here. It says feed. And then this is where you would create a post. And I've never created an activity from the class. Dean might actually be able to speak to that a little bit more than me. And this is where you would create your post, and then you would hit the next. If you go to your activities, there's your create. And you would do your new activity or use one of your old activities. And let's see. Oh, I need to go to my spaces. And so here's my individual space. There's your create. This is when you want to create, maybe this week you want your students to, reflect on the genre that they're reading. Then you could create a post that talks about the genre. And again, you have all of these in-house features that you could use. You could just make it as simple as an audio and typing it up and then adding your curriculum. Or you could actually create what I have done in my presentation and create those prompts from whatever, whether it's Canva or Adobe. So this one has a prompt. So this example, this is a prompt. All right. And again, the curriculum tags, Chris, it's up to you. If it makes more sense to you to be tagging what you're doing with the standards that you're teaching, and also the proficiency skills that are coming out this fall, it might make a little bit more sense as well. Checking the time. Okay, we're getting closer to the end. I do want to share a couple more things with you. Again, this presentation actually has all the hyperlinks so that you don't have to remember everything that I've shared with you today. You don't have to remember. If you have this presentation, of course, you can always come back to this webinar and fast forward or slow down. But I have linked everything. So if you want to know how to start talking with your students, and when I say talking, I mean making these comments, it's right here. It's hyperlinked. More resources that I wanted to show you. This is another prompt that I created. And this was kind of, so like if you actually wanted to talk about character traits, you can just use this template and mold it however you want. But I put it part of this book chat lesson. And in the book chat lesson plan that I did, it actually like spells it out. Like it goes through all of the different steps. So you have all of this again, and it talks about modeling in class, posting your prompts. So I wanted to share with you that you do have that available to you. I also wanted to share with you that I've created a lesson plan with my book, The I'm Sorry Story, that you can actually use with spaces. And the lesson, if you don't have my book, it's okay, because I did record myself reading it with the illustrations. So yeah, I put that in there just for you. I've also created maybe you hate, like, this is where I want to say, this is where my disclaimer is. Maybe you hate everything about this. You're just here, like, you're still here hanging on because you definitely want to get those credit hours, and I don't blame you. But maybe you're not really interested in the book club, but you want to do something with book spaces or book reports. I saw, Holly, what's Holly's name? I put it in my blog. I wrote this blog a few months ago, and I put it in here because I got this idea from Holly Clark. I don't know how I could forget her name, right? But she had put something about flip in there. And at the time it was still Flipgrid. And she talked about doing book reports, instead of like the typical type, she was talking about the different, and I thought, you know what, this is really cool. And it's a great idea. And I even linked her idea because you might like her idea even more than what I'm sharing. But you could also do everything. You could just create those little videos or do the book reports inside, and so that's an idea that I'm sharing in here without going into it too much, but it's right there. So it's like kind of a book reports alternative. I do have some blogs, how reading 20 minutes a day impacts your child. These are things that you could share with your parents. And even parents for secondary, sometimes they need to be reminded that, hey, your kids need to be reading, and it's okay for you to read with your high school students, isn't that crazy? But it really is okay for you to read with your high school students. I think high school students miss that. So our babysitter, she was a sophomore or junior, and she came over and she was babysitting for us. And we have 5 kids. And I was like, hey, this is my book. I want you to read it. And I want you to tell me what you think. So I gave her my book. And when I came back later that night, she's like, you know what? She's like, I really liked that book. And, no one's ever really described how to apologize like that. She's like, I learned something. And I thought, yeah. So, and it has pictures in it, right? I think even high school students sometimes like to read picture books. So I just think sometimes we take away opportunities when we shouldn't. We should always be as inclusive as possible. That's all I mean from that. And then I included 100 Ways to Engage Readers by my dear friend, Ekua Menz Moses. And she also wrote a blog on 100 Ways to Raise a Reader. And then I just thought, you know what? You should just follow Ekua. I'm sorry, I'm saying her name incorrectly. It's Ekua. You should follow her on Twitter because she's amazing. And she puts out so many wonderful resources. And if you follow her Twitter, then you can see her website is on her Twitter, and she's got all these resources. She's an amazing leader to follow. So those are some resources that I just wanted you to have. Yes, we're getting close. Again, I would love for you to follow me on Twitter, follow Spaces, and I do work for Spaces. I am still an educator. I am also an author, but I would love, so my personal, I'm putting things that I learn. The Spaces, if you ever tweet out Spaces, it's usually me and one other person that manages that account. So I will be on the other end of that. And if you decide to use Spaces as for your book club, please tag us. I would love, love, love to showcase you and what you're doing. Also, please go to our Spaced or Not community. So I put this on here, but I'm actually going to put I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab the link, and I'm going to put it into the chat so that you will join our Facebook community. Dean is there. I am there. Please, please. Oh, that's to Doc. I just sent it to you, Doc. Let me send it to everyone. Okay. So there is our community, and I would love to keep the conversation going. I did ask my our community about the reading. I just really wanted to talk about that this week. So you will be able to join literally we'll continue talking about this there. So
Melody, again, I know I always say all these good things, but again, one of the things that I really, really loved about this session is it wasn't just a tech tool session. You gave so many tips on how to do these things, right? How to engage with books, how to engage with stories. Then we went to the tech tool, and it was well, this is how you can actually put that tech tool into it. So just I mean, that's what we're looking for, right? So many times we go to tech tools trainings, and it's okay, we get it, but I need some ideas of how to use it. And I'm guilty of that, because I know one of my things is well, if you're a teacher, you should know how to use it. Here's how to, I'm here's how to do it. You should implement it any way you want to. That's my answer, right? But that's not good enough. We want ideas. So we learn from each other. So thank you so much. It was a beautiful end to the Spaces series. Cry, dear. Just a beautiful end to the series. So thank you so very much.
Well, thank you. I love coming on your platform. You have created such an amazing platform for educators to come and learn for many different topics. And I love being connected with you. Dr. Desiree Alexander, you're just an amazing person in my eyes and in so many eyes. So this has just been a wonderful experience. And I know that I love coming back, and I love working with you. And again, I just want to say before I stop talking, that if all you do is stay in that student, that class share space, and you just talk about books all year long, maybe you don't get into the activities, maybe you don't tag your curriculum, maybe you don't get into the reflection space, maybe you don't even do the group space. Maybe the only thing that you do is share in that class feed, and that's all you do with your students about books. that is still something that is amazing, because that probably is more than what a lot of our readers have ever experienced in school. And so you're still getting that feedback, you're still getting that peer evaluation, that peer chat. So you take it as shallow or as deep as you want. The whole point is just that we want our readers to be engaged with reading. And instead of using it as a punitive, like the reading logs I felt were used very punitively, I feel like this is where we really get our students to see that they are readers. Even if they've never, ever considered themselves a reader in the past, when they come into your classroom, they'll find an opportunity to see that they truly are readers. So thank you.